We are going to go through a glute strengthening series of exercises that is scoliosis friendly and incorporates some scoliosis specific exercises or Schroth exercises as well. So we're going to start by lying down on your back, knees bent, feet flat. So when you lie down, we always want to check that you're lining up nose and belly button and that the spacing between the top of your hips and bottom of your rib cage is equal. Many individuals with scoliosis have a pelvic deviation to the right or to the left, and we want to try to keep your pelvis stacked underneath your trunk and your rib cage at all times. Next, go ahead and give yourself just a little bit of a bear hug and wiggle up on the mat so that you're lengthening your spine and getting as long as you possibly can. We're going to do a couple expansion breaths here next to help set us up for success. So you can either do fingertips on your shoulders if you like, or even keep hands down at your sides is fine here as well. And as you inhale, you're going to imagine lifting your rib cage up away from your pelvis and expanding your ribs in 360 degrees. So in all directions, try to keep your shoulders down, face and neck relaxed. So you're going to inhale. And then as you exhale, try to maintain that length throughout your trunk. Take another breath, every breath in. Inhaling, expanding, opening through the concavities of your back. And as you exhale, maintaining that expansion, pressure, and tension. And then we're gonna start with a glute bridge here. And so you want to go ahead and inhale, lengthen throughout your core and trunk. And then as you exhale, squeeze your core, squeeze your glutes, lift your hips straight up and hold for a full inhalation and exhalation. You're gonna notice I'm not lifting very high. I wanna try to keep my spine as neutral as I can here. So I'm avoiding lifting too high and arching my back. And I'm trying to keep pelvis level. So I'm trying to keep both right and left legs and glutes engaged equally to make sure my pelvis stays level. And then go ahead and lower back down. We're gonna do 5 of those. So you're inhaling, lengthening, and then exhaling and lifting. And then you can take another full inhalation or exhalation at the top, maybe holding for 8 to 10 seconds here. Again, making sure your pelvis stays level, spine is neutral, lots of length through your trunk, face and shoulders relaxed. Sometimes people get hamstring cramps when they do this exercise. What helps is to squeeze your glutes just a little bit more when you do your lift and make sure that you're using glutes and hamstrings in the right balance to avoid that cramping of the hamstring muscle. We're gonna do 2 more. Inhaling, lengthening, expanding, and opening. And then exhaling, lifting up, keeping activation in core and glutes, face, neck, shoulders relaxed. One last one. Inhaling, lengthening, expanding. Exhaling, lifting. Hold for that next inhalation and exhalation. Staying in that lifted position, and then lower back down. All right, so we're gonna come up into sitting here next, and we're gonna move into position where we're on hands and knees, and then down into our prone on knees Schroth exercise. So you're gonna start in a tabletop position, hands right underneath shoulders, knees right underneath your hips. We're gonna turn your hands inward so your pinkies touch and your thumbs touch. And then lower down onto your elbows. Keep your forehead just hovering above your hands here. Again, your face, shoulders relaxed, elbows pressing wide. We're gonna take a few breaths. Inhaling, expanding, and opening through the concavities of your back. Exhaling, pressing head and hips opposite directions, pressing shoulders wide. Inhale again, lengthen, expand, and open. And then exhale, hold on to that expansion, pressure, and tension. 2 more breaths. Inhale, lengthen and expand. And then exhale, hold on to that expansion. Maintain lots of length. Keep your spine neutral. Avoid arching or rounding your back here. Inhale again, lengthen and expand. Exhale, hold it right there. And then when you're ready, we're going to come back up into a tabletop position. Try to keep hands right underneath shoulders, knees right underneath hips. Spine is neutral. The neck is a continuation of the rest of the spine. You can press gently down into the mat. Keep your fingers wide. It's going to help you stay balanced. And we're going to go ahead and do some hip abduction from this position. And so things to watch out for are accidentally collapsing into the concavities of your back, which would mean shortening the space between your rib cage and your hip potentially. So you want to keep your spine nice and lengthened. And also we want to watch that we're not rotating through our back. So your back should stay totally neutral. This motion should be coming from your hips, using your glutes. If you feel like you're moving through your spine, you want to go ahead and pause, make an adjustment there. It's better to move less and maintain stability than move more and compromise the position of your back. So we're going to do 2 sets of 5 on each leg. So only lifting as far as your hip mobility and strength allows. You should feel this in your glutes. When you pause and switch sides, it's a good opportunity to reset. Make sure you're in the best position you can be for you. Nice lengthened spine, neutral. Again, not arching your back or rounding your back. We'll go ahead and do left side. So depending on the shape of your spine, you may need to watch out more on one side or the other for collapsing into the concavity of your back or potentially rotating more on the side of the prominence. If you're unsure about your curve pattern, I definitely recommend checking out some of my other videos on understanding your curve or dropping a question in the comments. I'm always happy to try to help out because that is really important for being able to do scoliosis exercises well. One more time on each side, so 5 more each leg here. Again, making sure you're only moving as much as your hip mobility and strength allows. Better to do fewer repetitions, better to move less, and keep that stability to the best of your ability than to compromise that. All right, so back into hands and knees. We're going to reset for a moment. You can even take one more expansion breath in this position. Inhaling, lengthening, opening through the concavities of your back. Exhaling, keeping that nice expansion, pressure, and tension. And then we're going to come up into standing. So you can come up through a half kneel. You can come up and stand however you like. We're just going to come straight up into standing here and go into the next exercise. And so I'm going to be using a yoga block on this next exercise here. And so one thing I really have been liking lately for glute strength and maintaining a stable, neutral pelvis aligned underneath your trunk is taking a yoga block, maybe even a small ball, and you're going to stick it on a wall next to your hip. So it's going to be right here. We're going to do both sides, but you may notice, depending again on the shape of your spine, one side is easier or harder for you. You want to keep equal weight through your feet, nose and belly button lining up. You can do fingertips on shoulder on the arm that's away from the wall to help you maintain that activation. You're pressing your hip into the block, and you should feel activation through the glute on the opposite leg. That's the leg that's really working to keep your pelvis level. So just holding this position is a pretty good glute activation exercise. We can also add some hip flexion. So picking up that leg, putting it back down on the side towards the wall. Trying to stay tall, trying to keep neutral pelvis. You can go until you get to fatigue with this exercise. or until you feel like you cannot maintain that optimal position of your pelvis. If you feel like you're collapsing into your concavities, if you feel like your pelvis is shifting and you're unable to stay neutral, that's a good reason to stop as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch sides. It's the same thing on the opposite side. You're gonna be pressing that hip into the wall, bringing fingertips up to shoulders, starting from a position of alignment, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over ankles. Lots of length throughout your trunk here. I'm gonna bring fingertips up to shoulders, and we're gonna again add that hip flexion on the leg that is pressing into the wall. And you may notice that one leg is significantly easier or significantly harder for you. Usually the leg that is harder is the leg that is on the concave side of your primary curve. So usually we tend to like to weight bear on the side of the convexity of the curve. And so that leg is maybe more used to holding our pelvis stable, keeping it in midline. It can be easier to do this exercise. So as you practice this, you can pay attention. We're shooting for ultimately more equal side to side. That's something to work towards. It's a great little trick for activating glutes in standing. All right, we're gonna end with just a standing postural correction here. And so checking that nose and belly button are lining up, standing tall, lengthening throughout your trunk. You can even bring fingertips up to shoulders or just keep arms on your sides. Take a breath in, inhale, lengthen, lift your rib cage up away from your pelvis. And as you exhale, try to maintain that length. You should feel some gentle activation in your core, in your glutes. And that's gonna help you maintain that length and elongation that we always want. All right, thanks for watching. Please subscribe or like the video if this is helpful to you. Drop a comment, let me know what kind of videos you'd be interested in so I can make things that are useful. And reach out if you have questions, because I always love to hear from people and help wherever I can.